What's up, guys? How's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Today I got good news and I got bad news. Good news is my headers are done. Bad news is most of my footage was corrupt and my SD card basically went AWOL on me. So I got like 3 videos maybe out of all of 30 or whatever I had, little clips of both side headers and when I was building it. So yeah, that kind of sucks, but it is what it is. And we're going to move on. So basically this video is going to be, I'm going to try and recap hopefully everything that I did, kind of go through everything. Maybe it'll be shorter this way, so maybe good for you guys, but I'm happy that the headers are done, but yeah, it just sucks that all my footage got lost. So whatever, I guess, but we'll kind of get into it here. I'll show you that. Let me get the light on here. I'll show you the passenger side here. I did this one kind of last. I did the driver's side first, but being my first time TIG welding stainless, it turned out okay. It works. Is it pretty? Probably not, but yeah, this one here, I ended up, kind of doing 2 runners per side of the motor mount. They look very similar, just that the back one kind of comes and loops next to them, and then they both run down and then back. It was a little tricky getting in here and getting everything just to fit right and give clearance and everything. The starter does come out of here. The motor mount will sneak out of here too. If I want to pull the header out, I have to take that motor mount out and the bracket off the frame and the engine. And once the starter's out, and I can get that out of here. Now with the suspension on and the shock here and the upper control arm, maybe not. I haven't tried that, but it does sneak out of here without the way it is right here as you see it. So it just barely does. You kind of have to twist it and pull it out, but it works. So, but yeah, I thought it turned out okay. You can kind of see I have it down below here. I'll show you a little bit better pictures. It's tricky as far as getting everything fully welded, and being able to get to the back sides or in between the pipes and everything. So the way I did both sides is I got everything mocked up, kind of the way I did it, 1 pipe at a time is how I went through it. But I kind of tack welded everything first and just let it loosely fit in the collector down here, and then I loosely fit just up on the flange, the header flange. Once I knew that the runner was in the position I want, tack welded like that, then I would pull the whole runner out, or the primary I guess you'd call it, pull it out and then fully weld the whole thing, and then just kind of move on to the next one. There were a couple ones I think on the other side where you kind of have to mock up more than one at a time, just to make sure that everything's going to fit in there tight. But as I got each runner or primary fully welded, then I got everything put in here. I got my collector. I might just go down here and show you, I guess. So what I did is with the collector, they don't have this flange on here. It's just kind of straight out, but I bought this V-band flange for it. So then I put a pipe on the back side of that flange, had it bolted together or clamped together. So then I knew, where this collector needs to be pointed, rather than just lining it up with necessarily these, which might have a little rake or, left or right. So I got that kind of lined up, and I would get, this tacked on here, and no, let's see, I screwed that up. I think the first thing I did was I tacked them up here to the flange. Once the flange was on there, once I got them tacked to the flange, then I came down here, actually pulled the collector off. There's a little star, I don't know if we can see it or not, I'd have to pull that off. But inside the collector where the 4 pipes meet, you have a star pattern that came with this kit that I bought, and that gets basically tacked in place too, so all 4 don't move. And then I fully welded on the inside of the collector, because you can't get there from the outside when you actually slide the collector on, you'd either have to cut this open or somehow get in through the end of the pipe to weld that. So like I said, it's real tricky, kind of a puzzle to make sure you can weld everything before mounting the next piece onto it. So once I got that welded on the inside, that star piece, then I could put the collector on top of it and weld around all the outside here. But so trying to get all that kind of situated in order. I thought I did okay. And you know, I put a O2 bung on the back side of that, kind of where that flange sits back here. But I thought it turned out okay. I'll show you the driver's side. Whoops, let's grab the light here so you can see a little better. I don't know if I can get it in there now. All right, so this one wasn't too terribly bad. This one had just enough clearance here. I can kind of shoot straight down. See if I can kind of get in there and show you what it looks like a little bit. I do have room around the steering shaft there, and it goes into the collector in the back. Most of them I was able to take pre-made bends and get them to work, except for this one here, which you can see has got pie cuts welded in there. That was the sharpest kind of bend that I had to make. It wasn't terrible, it's just a lot of extra welding, and then also anytime you cut a corner, depending on how you cut it, the shape of that pipe is going to be round or oval or whatever, so you want that all to line up perfectly when you're TIG welding it. But one trick that I used on my pie cuts here is I took a straight piece right here. So this is 1 3/4 pipe is what I used, but as you can see I got a line drawn on there, and I flip it to the other side, there's another line. That is halfway up, or 7/8. So basically you put it on a bench or a flat surface and you mark the middle of it, and then you flip it around, you mark the middle of the other side. So that way when you actually cut it, you know that you got it lined up right. But basically you can see I got a little bit of a angle cut on there. That's actually 15 degrees. So what I ended up doing was, once you put it in your saw or whatever you're using to cut it, you measure to make sure that line is going to be in the middle, 7/8 high. When you cut it, set your angle here to 15 degrees one way or the other. Cut it, and then you're going to rotate this pipe to the other side 180 degrees, and then measure to make sure it's 7/8 up, so you know it's in the middle. And then your saw would have been stayed the same, but the pipe now has changed, so now you're creating a pie cut. And the nice thing about that is when you put them together, I don't know if I have any other pie cuts left. I thought I had one sitting around here somewhere, but nope, I guess I don't. But the pie cut basically you know that the opening will be round. It's not going to be oval the way you cut it because it came out of a straight pipe. So that's kind of the reason for doing it this way, and that's how I did that pie cut. You can buy pie cuts too, but and you can see I got kind of a mess here, just all the extra pieces. But that one wasn't terrible, but it was a little tricky getting it in here. The kit that I purchased came from Stainless Headers in Minnesota. I bought their Coyote kit. Most of their stuff, or J-bends, well, that's part of a J-bend, I guess. Show you here. So that's one of their J-bends that they have. It's 6 inches long on this end. It's 2.5, I believe, centerline radius on the bend, and then it's got 12 inches on the other side that I cut off already. And they send you a bunch of, I think there's 10 of them, 10 J-bends, the flanges, the collectors, the little star piece in there, some TIG rod to TIG it together, and it worked out good. But some of those bends, I needed something tighter. I'll show you here. So this is some of my leftover J-bends here. Let's get that in there. Yeah, here you can see my pie cuts. But yeah, this is all kind of what I have left over. What I didn't end up using there, or what wouldn't work, I guess, is I bought some other tighter bends from Ace Race parts. These are 45s and some 90s in here, just in case I needed them. Most of the bends that I had here, now if you can see this side, but like some of these bends I needed it tighter than 2.5 centerline radius. So some of the bends that Ace Race Parts has is 1 3/4 I think centerline radius, and 2 1/4 on some of them. So they make a nice tighter bend there, same size 1 3/4, and that helped out a lot. I think I used 4 or 6, something like that, of their bends that were tighter. And then when I could get down further, then I used a lot of the stainless headers bends, because I didn't need as tight of a bend there. So it worked out okay. Everything, you know, Ace Race ones were all polished, and the other ones, stainless ones, were non-polished, which didn't matter. But eventually I think I'm going to end up painting these things. But I think for now I want to make sure that there's no leaks in them, and just make sure they work okay before going through all that. But like these two here were 1 3/4 pipe, but 1 3/4 centerline radius, which is, you know, the radius of the bend here. Just to get it kind of get straight down and clear this shaft, I had to put them there. Where here it didn't matter as much. But yeah, it's also kind of tricky too to make sure you can get at all the bolts. For the most part I can get at, you know, like this one here, I can't get a socket and wrench on there, but I can get a wrench on it, tighten everything up. You know, once the shaft is removed, that whole header will come out of there pretty easily. Trying to think what else I ended up doing. That flange that I have down here on both of them, I'll go underneath here and show you a little bit better. But so let's see. So this V-band flange is 3-inch, because this is a 3-inch collector. It goes from a 3-inch and narrows down to 2.5, because I'm going to run 2.5 pipe all the way out the rest of the way. So that's nice that I don't have to necessarily put that reducer in the pipe here. It's right here on the flange. So that's just helpful. But so I bought 2 of them, got them on there. I do need to finish doing the rest of the exhaust. Let's see if we can kind of see. I'll pull the light in here better. So you can kind of see I'm trying to get them straight. Enough clearance between the frame rail and the transmission on both sides. They're probably a little off right now, but I'm trying to make them level from side to side. And then what I'm going to do, I got to cut these. These were just some aluminized pipe that I put in here because I didn't have the 2.5 yet. I have that now, but these are just kind of mock-up purposes and just tack welded in. But what I want to do is shorten these up just a little bit and bring them in and do an X pipe right here just after the cross member, and then shoot back out, and then the muffler basically hangs, you know, back here. So a few 45s and some 90s in here. We'll make an X pipe out of it, and it should work okay. That's kind of what I had before. I thought about using the old one, but kind of thought about using the old exhaust pipe that goes back there, but I think I'd have to end up doing more cutting and everything else just to get it to work. So plus I wanted to go stainless the whole way, and I think it'll still work out okay. But it probably took me a weekend to do each header, roughly. Just a couple times I ran out of gas, out of argon, stuff like that. So it took a little bit of time, but we got her done. So this is actually the kit that I bought from IC Engine Works. I don't know if you can see that, or Ice Engine Works, something like that. But little spendy for probably only going to end up using it once. But this is their 1 3/4 kit. This is their, I guess, I don't want to say cheap, but it's their lesser priced kit for doing one side of a V8. So it's made to mainly have enough pieces here to do 4 primaries, which really I'm only doing 1 or 2 at a time anyway, so this is plenty, but basically comes with a bunch of straights. Then it's got a bunch of curves, but they're, like this one here is 2-inch centerline radius corners. Then you have 3-inch centerline radius, and then 4 and 6, depending on how you want to run things. So because mine were 2.5 on my centerline radiuses from stainless headers, what I ended up doing is it was probably closer to the 3-inch. So I was using the 3-inch when I was using the 2.5 headers or pipes, and then when I was using like the 1 3/4 or the ones I got from Ace Race Parts, which were tighter radiuses, then I would use the 2-inch. And man, this thing was a lifesaver. I mean, you could make it, but these things work so slick. It also comes with these, which these are little plugs basically. So these would go, let me grab a pipe, I guess, quick. So as you're building it, or if you're starting off with a header flange that maybe has a little stubby pipe sticking out of it, you put this inside there like that, and then you would take one of these and put that over there, and then stick the Allen wrench in there and tighten it down, and that's basically part of your pipe. What I ended up doing, which was somewhat quicker, is I would just put this on here, or however I was making them, and I would just put masking tape around here in a few spots, whatever, and just to hold things together. I mean, these all snap together. I think you've probably seen these before and can figure it out, but they snap together so quick. Grab some of these. You know, you can start making your bends. One nice thing about these, if you can see that, they have arrows on here, on all of them. That kind of, so as you take the pipe, let me grab this corner. So if all these arrows are lined up from the straights to the bends, that is basically your piece there, and you wouldn't have to cut it. That lines up perfectly. But if for some reason you were to take these and turn them like that, now your piece isn't necessarily going to be lined up. Basically what they say is whenever you see that these arrows aren't lined up, that's where your cut will be. You know, like I have that, the straight ones basically can spin anywhere, but if you were to take your bend and have to turn it just a little bit, you can't, you know, that's going to start to be perfect here and then dart that way. Well, that pipe, you can't cut it like that even though it's similar shape. So it's very easy to know where you need to cut. It also has kind of dots on here all the way around so you can kind of line them up. But yeah, it was pretty slick and easy to use these things. You know, it's my first time building headers. So I'm glad I spent the money and bought this kit, and yeah, it's worth it. I also ended up buying this little clamp here too. Basically it just clamps on 2 pieces that you would need to weld together just to hold it. And I didn't really use this too much. The masking tape actually worked pretty good. If you just put a few spots around the pipe and you know, tack between the pieces of tape, it worked fine. So, but yeah, it's well worth the money, guys. can see I got the O2 sensor welded in place there. And let's see if we can see the other side here too. Right up there. You kind of want the sensors to be pointing down a little bit, so that way any moisture that can get in there will drain out of the O2 sensor. You don't want it necessarily pointing up. So you kind of want the O2 sensor to be at that 9 to 3 clock position, I guess, or 10 to 2, somewhere in there. Sometimes you just don't have the room for it, so you got to mount them wherever you can, but it could shorten the life, but how often does that happen, I guess? So I wasn't really sure, before all the camera footage kind of took a shit on me, I wasn't sure if I was going to do video on the rest of the exhaust, just because I didn't know if the video was going to be getting long the way it was. So I just wanted kind of to do a recap, show that, yep, the headers are done, basically, and trying to explain how I went through doing it. I'm probably missing something or a bunch of stuff, but hopefully it kind of helps you understand what I had to go through just to make the headers. It was a nice challenge. I enjoyed it, even though I maybe made some mistakes or whatever. It took me a little bit longer than I wanted to, but yeah, it was it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, so worked out pretty good, with the header build kit here, the mock-up kit. That made a hell of a difference, and just the quality of the stainless products that I got. So, all right, I'm going to attempt to show you the rest of the exhaust on here. Underneath the truck, being I don't have a lift in here, it's going to be a little tricky just to get under there and get lighting and stuff. So bear with me. I apologize for that, but I'm just going to try and show you how I'm attacking this. So I kind of had it mocked up in there somewhat, so I can kind of figure out about where I'm going to need this X pipe. So I kind of have it measured out pretty much right after the transmission cross member right here. It's going to come underneath the drive shaft and then cross over. So I had it kind of marked about where I needed to join the X pipe. So it's a little tricky getting all this lined up, making sure that this hole is the same size as this hole, and getting the angles of this 90-degree bend here the same, but you just got to take your time. So I think I got it figured out here where it butts up pretty good there. I'm going to tack it in place just enough where I can maybe still adjust it a little bit, because I'm not 100% sure if I got the distance from one side to the other there. But what I'll do is I'll get this tacked in place. I'll slide it up in there, get it as level as possible, and then I'll get the flanges tacked on to the end of there. Most of this stuff here is all kind of a slip joint. I could cut that off and weld it, but I think I'll just slide them together and then weld on there on each spot. It's maybe not as pretty with the slip joints in there, but it'll work fine. So, but we'll get this tacked together here, get it in the vehicle, and kind of figure out if I got to adjust the gap down there. But I think I'm pretty close here. Hopefully you can see this. I think I got it lit up fairly good, but just have it in place. I got the cross or the X pipe tack welded in here. So now I have it set in here, being held up kind of with some bungee cords. Oops. But it looks fairly straight. I have enough clearance for the drive shaft to move up and down. I have it somewhat centered left to right, and just getting ready to tack each joint up to the front there. But I put a level on it, so it's pretty level horizontally, and I think it's looking pretty good. But we'll get those joints tacked so they don't move, and we can kind of get everything tacked up to the muffler, but looks all right there. Everything's pretty straight. Kind of wanted to keep everything, above the bottom of the frame here, just so you don't necessarily see it hanging there. And so far it's been turning out okay. All right, got the rest of the exhaust finished up. It turned out pretty good. Everything's fully welded now. This end will have the mufflers on it, and then you can see the flanges on this side where they'll go up onto the headers. So get that bolted in, and I'll show you that real quickly here. There we go, all wrapped up, got the mufflers on. I just got turn downs on here. because the fuel cell is in the back, so there's no real good way of running tailpipes, but here we are. That's the full exhaust on there. Everything turned out pretty good. I had a little bit of warpage after fully welding everything, so I had to kind of spread these front flanges out a little bit because it kind of sucked in a little. But we got it on there, got everything clamped down. I did have to put a couple tack welds right here. This clamp went tight. It's tight, but I could still rotate with a little bit of force the muffler, so I didn't want that rotating in the bushing back here. So I just put a couple tack welds on each one and we should be fine. It's very stable, hardly any wiggle to it, but yeah, can't wait to hear this thing start up. I think it'll be interesting to see what the difference is. I'll probably do a little video. I do have a video on my channel that has the MagnaFlows versus these Flow FXs, just on that small block Ford that I had in there, the other 302. So to hear with the Coyote on there, it would be real interesting to hear what it sounds like. So I'll probably do a little video comparing just the Flow FX versus the 302 versus this one. Yeah, that'll do it for this time. I appreciate you guys sticking around, watching it. Sorry if the video's a little choppy or weird because of my footage that I lost. But I think next we're going to kind of end up probably doing the intake. Get that made up. Trying to think what else we got. I can start painting the suspension. Probably get that put in here pretty soon. Kind of debating whether I should leave that off and do all my wiring and everything else just so it's not in the way, and do that last, but I can at least get that painted. So, but it's coming along, guys, and getting closer and closer and getting excited. So we'll see you next time. All right, thanks.